Peace, peace, peace. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know, it's your boy Vic Sling Hope. And I got another book review for y'all. I know it's been a little while. I apologize. And today's book is Psycho-cybernetics. Now, the reason that I picked this book, I actually didn't really pick this book. I felt like somebody gave me the book. Not feel like, but that's exactly what happened. So one of my classmates, in biology class, me and her used to have like little conversations here and there about the struggle and like, black culture here in the Americas and like, the continuous struggle for like survival and like freedom. And at one point she told me I was an angry black man. I felt like she really didn't get it. She didn't really get where I was coming from. Maybe she just needed a little more readings to do. Or maybe she just needed to, do her own little research and find out more information about certain things. Or maybe she just needed more experiences. However, she called me an angry black man. And she was just like, and one day out of nowhere, she just came and she gave me the book, Psycho-cybernetics. And she was like, yo, make sure you read this. I think it will be beneficial to you. We always used to exchange like information about reading certain books and stuff like that anyway. So she gave me the book. I looked at it because the version that she had was a very old version, right? So I was just like, the page, it was like one of them old pages. They was kind of like yellowish. You get like them James Patterson books. Yeah, it was an old version of the book. It didn't even have no cover. Yeah, I'm throwing a little shade. It didn't have no cover, no back piece. Like, the pages was falling apart. But I definitely learned a lot from that book. I appreciate her for it. The book definitely taught me a lot. I learned a lot about myself. And it definitely gave me a different train of thought. The funny thing is, this same sister, like a year after this, she came back and told me that, she kind of like understood me better. I'm guessing that she ran into her own little situations, or maybe she read up on some things. I don't know. But I appreciated that, that she kind of like came back and she was like, now I understand like why you were saying some of the things that you were saying to me. But anyway, that's how I got into the book. She gave me the book. She recommended it. And at first I didn't really want to read the book because I said like how the book looked, but I read it and I don't regret it. I even took my time with the book. So the book is basically about, the person that wrote the book was a plastic surgeon. And he spoke about how he always did like plastic surgeries for people. He always fixed certain scars. He always gave them augmentation, right? Like maybe breasts or maybe certain things. But he spoke about that, usually he felt like people was coming in there because they had low self-esteem issues. And he was saying, but what he started to notice was that even after people changed their appearance or people changed how their body looked, that they still had pessimistic ideologies about themselves. They still was insecure. It didn't really change anything. Even though like he enhanced their beauty. He said some people will come in there looking real beautiful and he didn't understand why they needed or why they wanted to go under the knife. So he said he started to look at it more closely. He started to like do a little more research. He started to like look into the things, and then he came up with like, so then he got into the whole thing about like psycho-cybernetics, how the brain functions like a computer, and a whole bunch of different things. But the book is very interesting. And I think like one of like the main things that I learned from this book, it was, well, I'm gonna get into that. But yeah, the book is basically about how he was a plastic surgeon and how he didn't understand like how some people were so beautiful, but they will come in there and get surgery and get things done to them. So it just breaks down the correlation of how is a deeper psychological issue going on with a lot of people, and how the brain kind of like works like a computer. So that's what the book is about. What I got from the book was, the main thing I got from the book was, he mentioned the thing about the self-image. And the self-image is basically accumulated ideas and things that we have heard over the years since we was born, or things that we have seen. For example, like since we was born here, right, as a black person, right, we was always taught about slavery, right, since we was young. We was told that African people got here through slavery. We was told that African people or black people are a minority. We was told so many negative, derogatory things, right, in the media, in the music, so many different things, right? And that in return is what you feed your brain, and it builds your self-image of yourself. It's how you see yourself. It's how you view yourself. So you can tell yourself you're pretty. You can tell yourself you're a king. You can tell yourself you're a queen. But if every time you walk outside your house, you're treated less than. If every time, you go to school, somebody's making fun of you, or somebody's calling you out your name, or somebody, these are ideas that people, you're hearing, you're processing, you're seeing, and they get stored in your brain. And these are the things that kind of like start to make up your self-image. So he spoke about something that was very important to me. And he said that the person that believes they are meant to be oppressed will squander any opportunity that is given to them because you believe something different. So even if, for example, he said, so even if, for example, like a lot of black people, they self-sabotage themselves. And that's the reality, right? Yes, there are obstacles that are outside of our body, and the external, but a lot of times the reason why we fail or the reason why we don't succeed is because we self-sabotage ourselves. For example, I'll give you an example. You can go try to get a job, right? It could be you and the white person trying to get the same job. Because of our experience and the legacy in this country and what has happened here, the history, right? If we don't get that job and the white person get the job, it will be so easy for us to say the reason that we didn't get the job is because we're black and that person was white. But the reality could be that the reason you didn't get the job is because you're not qualified enough. But because of our trauma and, again, the history and what has happened here, we're so quick to say, I didn't get the job because I was white. I didn't get the job because I was black. The other person got the job because they was white. Or I didn't get the job because I was a woman. Or I didn't get the job because I was gay. Or I didn't get the job because I'm an immigrant. Or, because of our trauma, right? Because of what we experienced, right? And I'm not saying there might not be no truth to it, but he was just saying that a person that is meant to believe, right, been getting fed these ideologies, these philosophies, these images, right? Because another thing he mentioned was that the brain does not know the difference between a false image and a real image, which is like the reason why when we dream, when we go to sleep and we dream, if you're getting chasing your dream, you usually wake up with your heart racing, usually wake up sweating, usually wake up in whatever condition that you was in your dream. And sometimes people say if you die in your dreams, you die in real life. Now, I don't know, I don't know the truth to that, but the point that I'm trying to make is that the brain does not know the difference between a false image and a real image. So sometimes you get fed a certain narrative, and you might not feel that way, but you're getting fed it so much, and you're being treated a certain way so much that your brain starts to believe it because it can't tell the difference between a false image and a real image. So that was one of the biggest things that the book talked about. How people self-sabotage themselves. Like, for example, pretty people, cute people was walking into his office that looked beautiful, but they believed a different narrative about themselves. Regardless of, we don't know if people was feeding it to them, they were seeing it on television, whatever the case might be. They believe a certain thing, so they will go into his office and get surgery. So how I plan to use this information? How I plan to use this information is that I realized a lot of times I did self-sabotage myself. A lot of times I did prevent myself because what I've been taught, what I've been learning, what I've been seeing, so I learned through that book that I have squandered a lot of opportunities because of the history here and because of my trauma, right? And because of my prejudices and my preconceived notions about the world that I live in. I give you an example. He also gave another example of like, if you don't envision yourself, for example, people say they want to be a lawyer. They might want to be a basketball player. They might want to be a doctor. And he broke down that if you can't see yourself walking into that office with your suit and your briefcase, if you can't see yourself walking into that hospital room with that lab coat, if you can't see yourself doing certain things, it's going to be very hard for you to achieve those things because if you don't see it, like for example, if you don't see it in your neighborhood, right? If you don't see lawyers, if you don't see certain people, right? If you don't come in contact with them and then you can't see yourself, then he was saying it's going to be hard for you to achieve it. Almost like math. I give the example of math, right? In math class, a lot of us tell ourselves we are bad at math. We tell ourselves we hate it, we dislike it, we don't want it, we don't want to deal with it. So because we tell ourselves that we are bad at math, and because we tell ourselves we hate it, we dislike it, our brain sets up blockers that prevent us from getting the information that would teach us how to get through the course. So he was saying a lot of us have this problem because, again, we put things in our head that I don't like it, I hate it. And because we tell our brain certain things, our brain is not receptive to the information. No matter how much the professor explains it, no matter how much we go to tutoring, sometimes we just don't get it because we already put that in our head. So that's kind of like, so the way I plan to propagate it, I'll just be telling people like, look, I sabotage myself from certain opportunities that I could have been in because, again, like, I live my life a certain way, not because I chose to, but because I experienced it and I felt it a certain way, and because I fed my brain certain books. So today I try not to read certain books that remind me of suffering, that remind me of what the European people did to us, that remind me of certain things, because I don't want that to plague my mind. And I think that's what happens a lot. When we see a lot of these movies of enslavement, when we read a lot about the history of what was going on here, we start to become, you could become a little too bitter, and you could also start to self-sabotage yourself. You know, it breeds hopelessness because they don't give you no solution in these books or these movies, right? It's always like a sad story at the end of a movie. It's always like a sad ending at the end of a book. And I realized that the more you read these things, the more you are constantly reminded of your inferiority, right? And the more you're reminded of that, the more hopelessness you become. And the more you start to tell yourself, like, what's the point of me doing this? I'm never going to really get to where I'm trying to get. So I just try to remind people when I hear certain things from certain people, I just try to tell them, like, yo, maybe you should read this book because it might help you understand how the brain works and how you should stop reading certain things and how you should stop watching certain things and listening to certain things. So that's the book. I hope y'all go get it. It's a great book. I hope y'all enjoy it. Like I enjoyed it. It has definitely helped me and made a change in my life. So make sure, let me know what y'all think. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Peace.